So it's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks since those folders with whatever was in those folders was released. Supposedly supposed to be some Epstein files, but everybody that I heard from or that spoke about it that was special enough to receive that list or that packet of whatever it was said it was BS. So here we are still waiting to get something. Let's check it out.
Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to News Nation. No nonsense news. Last night I told you don't take the bait when it comes to the nonsense. It's not just about Trump, but it's often a lot about Trump. The tweets, the trumpeted threats, the boasts. They drive the media cycle. They drive the left crazy. And yet so many said, when I said don't take the bait, they're like, no. You, Cuomo, are missing what matters. I'm not. I'm just keenly aware of what does not matter. And look, let's reckon our way through it, okay? Last week, it was Trump trashing Zelensky. I kept questioning this. It didn't make any sense. It's not true. It's not kind. It's it's nonsense. People kept saying, no, it's 4D chess. Bill O'Reilly came on and said, no, he's got to flatter Putin. That's the plan because Russia has all the cards, Jedi-level mind games. Today, not so much. If everybody was all so right about Trump, why did the president today play dumb when confronted by a reporter about the Post?
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
Okay, look, this president is not like others before him. He is not in the think it through, measure twice, cut once, political skills school. He's flash, feints, talk big, back off. The mistake is judging him like those before him or by any standard that, yes, should apply. But they don't. Deal with it. Except one. And here's where you can take solace. And here's where you really should be focused anyway. There is one standard that applies to Trump absolutely, and it really is the only standard that should matter. Does what he does pay off to your benefit or not? Yesterday, Trump said his 25%.
I mean, that's what any president, any sitting president, you have to ask yourself that repeatedly. That's why I find myself neither Republican nor Democrat, because I always have issues with both. So, yeah, you should be asking yourself that about every president.
Tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China will be going ahead in April. This morning, he changed. The tariffs will be going ahead next week. Why? Fentanyl still coming into the country at unacceptable levels, which is true, by the way. Yesterday, Trump announced he was planning to hit the European Union with tariffs very soon on vehicles and other farm products. He announced that the EU was created to screw the United States. Now, do you believe that those tariffs are going to happen? I don't. Can you take issue with the words? Of course. I told you last time, the tariff talk is a tactic, okay? And that all the agonizing about the impact on prices and what's going to happen with inflation was all premature because it wouldn't come to that, and it didn't, and that remains true. Is it annoying that he seems tougher on our allies than adversaries? Yeah. But all that matters is what comes from the moves and whether things get better or worse. Wait for that and you will have plenty to work with. Just be fair. When things work out well, acknowledge that. Because we're going to see. Is Hamas still going to be in power? Is that conflict really going to end? Does Doge really deliver? Now, tonight, we deal with a disappointment based on this standard. Last night, Attorney General Pam Bondi said there's going to be a release of the Epstein files. It's going to contain a lot of names and information. Then earlier today, we find out the first files.
There they go. There go the infamous files right there that people got that they were not happy with. They weren't happy with. Some people was just like, what is this? is this? Yeah, that was messed up for them to do them like that. Straight up crazy.
Well, they were given first this group of right-wing social media influencers. And, you know, the real media went crazy. Now, I don't sweat the pod people because I knew if they were getting it first, it meant that there was nothing real coming. And I was right so far. Phase 1 of the Epstein files are out for everybody, and we're still reading through, but one of Bondi's people told News Nation that the documents mirror what has already been publicly released, and we should expect no major surprises. Wah, wah. The vast majority of names in the contact list already reported, although nobody now is going over the same names we knew and including Trump. They're including my wife, but they're not including Trump. There are some new names, Alec Baldwin, Mick Jagger, Ethel Kennedy. You know, none of these people are accused of anything. Flight logs were released, but many were already in previous litigation and released. One document labeled masseuse list was completely redacted. Why did you even release it? It's completely redacted. It's the opposite of transparency. Now, what bothers me about this? Well,
who y'all think is on the masseuse list? And why is that redacted? Out of everything on that list, they knew everybody would have, if you'd have heard, you'd have went straight there. That's like back in the day when you heard some people get the paper, they go straight to the obituaries. You would have went straight to the masseuse list. Like, most people would have probably been able to recite that list after viewing it one time. That's how in tune they would have been. But that's redacted? Come on. At this point, you have to say they're playing in our faces. You have to.
That they hyped it. Nobody hyped Epstein and the myth that he was murdered and the info that was coming more than the Trumpers, which was weird given that no major politician was pals with Epstein more than Trump was. Now, they all seem to agree, you know, there really is no client list. Oh, really? That's why you don't take the bait.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is demanding that the FBI turn over thousands of pages that were missing related to Jeffrey Epstein's investigation by the Southern District of New York, setting a strict Friday deadline for the full disclosure. In a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel, Bondi said that she was tipped off after having only been handed over roughly 200 pages from FBI, while the rest remained hidden at the New York field office of the Bureau. She's now ordered the full and complete Epstein files to be turned into her by Friday, including all records, audio and video recordings, and client information.
Now, you know this is making it worse, right? For people. Because now if we ever do get that masseuse list, it's at that point, the names that are on there is going to be associated with some type of scandal or whatever people come up with to put around those names. They're making it worse. It's going to be that. It's going to be 1,000 times worse. So that's why I think now at this point we won't get all the names because they're going to remove. They're going to remove them. I just feel like that now because they know if they drop those names with some of the powerful people that are probably and allegedly on that list, yeah, it's gonna go crazy. It's gonna make their life miserable. They ain't gonna be able to walk outside. There's gonna be cameras everywhere. Their life will completely change. And if you don't think they're trying to pay, just imagine the backdoor phone calls that are being made right now every day until that person get a hold of somebody to say, hey, I'm just trying to donate to the presidency, or I'm trying to donate to this foundation, charity. I'm trying to donate to, it's probably a ton of donations coming in right now. Oh, whatever you need. Whatever you need. You know I'm here for you. There's probably a lot of that taking place right now. Phone calls. Because they know what's coming when those names come out.
The push for transparency comes as a Republican lawmaker earlier in the day had sounded the alarm over the potential withholding of some of those files. Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee is drafting a Preventing Epstein Documentation Obliteration, or PEDO Act, aimed at preventing the records from being destroyed. He cited reports that some agents in the Bureau had already been trying to wipe some of the files. The DOJ earlier on Thursday afternoon released roughly 100 files to several conservative influencers at the White House, handing them over binders with the title, "The Epstein Files Phase 1," written on the front cover.
Look at that. Even that just seems like it was thrown together last minute. Huh? You took the little clear case and you slid a little piece of paper that you printed off on one of your old school printers that looked like it came off an old school printer from back in the day. You slid that inside the little packet and handed that out. The Epstein Files Phase 1 by order of Attorney General Pamela Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. Didn't take somebody that long to create that list, bro. They should have knew as soon as they saw that. Oh, this ain't finna be nothing.
Title, "The Epstein Files Phase 1," written on the front cover. Senator Marsha Blackburn is also demanding full transparency about the Epstein documents, saying her efforts to, quote, "crack the Epstein trafficking ring wide open" had been stonewalled under past administrations. She insists that will change under Director Kash Patel, who was confirmed last week by the Senate. With pressure mounting and accusations of a decades-long cover-up, all eyes are on the FBI to see if it complies with Bondi's ultimatum.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We do have some breaking news to report. Remember, this has been discussed throughout the course of the last few days. The Epstein files, or the Epstein list, regarding the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Well, we're hearing from Attorney General Pam Bondi there at the Department of Justice. She just issued this press release releasing some of these files, some of these pieces of evidence, some of these call logs, some of these flight logs, many of which are largely out there in the public domain, and we're going to go over some of them. We have been for the last couple of minutes. This is just breaking here, so this is what we know. I'm reading from the statement put out by Attorney General Bondi. She says this: today, in conjunction with the FBI, declassified and publicly released files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual exploitation of over 250 underage girls at his homes in New York and Florida, among other locations, has been released. The first phase of...
I think this has far exceeded Jeffrey Epstein at this point, right? We have to continuously ask ourselves the question, right? What does the release of these files mean? What does it mean, right? Does it mean accountability, transparency? Does it mean that people will be held accountable? That's the question that should be asked. What does this all mean? Do we think that when this list, whenever it drops, hope I'm still of good sound mind whenever they decide to drop it, does this mean that the people on this list that have been found to have been doing or have done some wrongdoing, will they be held accountable? I don't think any of us are confident that's going to happen. Is it going to fuel more conspiracy theories after that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? Because as a conspiracy theorist, I believe that it's going to be business as usual. The same thing that normally happens in this situation. Nobody goes down for anything. And if they do, it'll be somebody that they trot out in front of us that they chose to take the fall. That person did something to somebody high up, and now he has to pay the price. And they'll make him and exploit him and make him be the fall guy, or her, whomever, be the fall guy for this situation.
Of declassified files largely contains documents that have been previously leaked but never released in a formal capacity by the U.S. government. So the DOJ acknowledging there in this statement that many of these files that were released today officially are already out there. They go on to say this, that, quote, this Department of Justice is following through on President Trump's commitment to transparency and lifting the veil on the disgusting actions of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators. Pam Bondi went on to say the first phase of files released today sheds light on Epstein's extensive network and begins to provide the public with long overdue accountability. And so we're also hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel. I want to put this statement up. He says this. That's Pam Bondi. Patel saying this, that the FBI is entering a new era, one that will be defined by integrity, accountability, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Patel says there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, and no stone left unturned. And anyone from the prior or current Bureau who undermines this will be swiftly pursued. He says if there are gaps, we will find them. He says if records have been hidden, we will uncover them. And we will bring everything we find to the DOJ to be fully assessed and transparently disseminated to the American people as it should be. He says the oath we take is to the Constitution. And under my leadership, that promise will be upheld without compromise. So like I said, released today officially by the DOJ, an evidence list, flight logs, an Epstein contact book, which is redacted, and a masseuse list, which is redacted there. And so remember, just last night, Pam Bondi was on Jesse Watters' Primetime, and she told Fox News.
Again, wake me when the masseuse list come out. That's the list everybody waiting on. Most of the names y'all probably done already heard of anyway. But that masseuse list, wonder why that one's redacted. Wake me when that one drops.
Last night, she planned to release a lot of names and flight logs today and warned that the contents of the files overall are, quote, pretty sick. In that very same interview, she revealed there were more than 250 alleged victims in Epstein's trafficking ring and that their identities would be protected in any release of documents on the case. And now, just have to reiterate this point, many of the documents were all...
Now, if you got to protect somebody, I somewhat get that. You know what I mean? You're protecting those who were wrongly, who had things wrongly done to them. I get that. You know what I mean? But even in like the Diddy cases, if you're going to accuse somebody, those names are going to be made public one way or the other. You know what I mean? So even if you want justice, it's going to come in the form of your name being released. I would think, just based upon what we're seeing in other cases, not related to this one, but just other cases out there. You know, what is it? You have the right to know your accuser and stuff like that and all. Like, your name is going to be made public. Sorry.
Already released during Ghislaine Maxwell's federal criminal trial. Remember, that landed her in prison for decades. She got 20 years in that case. These include flight logs, an evidence list, a contact book, and a masseuse list believed to refer to Epstein's victims. Now, Epstein was 66 when he died in a jail cell back in 2019 in New York while awaiting trial. Remember, on those federal trafficking charges, his potential client list has long been an item of public interest, though some reporters who have covered this story have cited the Epstein list as a figment of many's imaginations. Some conclude that that list per se.
I was just thinking about the mob guy. I can't remember his name in the video I reacted to from Pierce Morgan, and how he was talking about he was in that prison, the same prison that Jeffrey Epstein was in, and he was like, there's no way he had the time and the separation to be alone to execute what they're saying he did to himself. He said there's no possible way. He said it's too much movement, activity, guards, everything going on up and down that tier or whatever that location is. for him to be able to do that. He said there's no possible. He said, I was in that prison in that area and there's no possible way.
Does not exist. And so this is why we're covering this story here. And so we'll just have to wait and see whether or not any more is released over the coming days. And so remember, this is somewhat embroiling elements of President Trump's inner circle and many of his supporters and acolytes on social media. Many of them are somewhat internally feuding over why this was seemingly delayed. We were told this was going to be released. Much of it, remember, almost all of it has been publicly available for some time. Here on Live Now, we have been covering this story. We did segments on it when those names, when those logs were released last year. Now, conservative political commentators were spotted at the White House just today. Live picture there at the White House. And many of them were holding binders that read, quote, the Epstein files, hours after Pam Bondi promised the release of documents about Epstein. Now, it was not immediately clear what was in those binders. Those binders have not been released.
Nothing. a bunch of nothing, right? They gave them a paperweight to take home. That's it, a paperweight.
Released publicly by the DOJ. We just reported what was released by the DOJ just now. And so the binders read, quote, declassified, but it was not immediately clear whether the information contained in the binders had ever been classified. Now, among those holding the binders was the political commentator Rogan O'Hanley online. He's known as DC Drano. And so some of these House GOP members like Anna Paulina Luna, the Republican from Florida, said this online before this was released today. She says, I nor the task force were given or reviewed the Epstein documents being released today. She says a New York Post story just revealed the documents will simply be Epstein's phone book. She says, in all caps, this is not what we or the American people asked for, and a complete disappointment. And so you can see there, Anna Paulina Luna, not entirely pleased with how this was handled, as are some of these other supporters, acolytes, and allies of the president, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says this, the Epstein list is going to be released and much more is coming. She says there is currently a war raging within. She says the resistance within will be beaten and the truth will be revealed. She says, I'm so proud of...
That's crazy. That's saying a lot without saying a lot. It only took her 3 lines to get that off. The Epstein list is going to be released. Much more is coming. This is currently a war raging within. That says a lot right there. So for all of y'all that sit around and think, oh, the government's great, there's no corruption going on. They hit you with that. There's no corruption going on. No, not my government. Then why is there currently a war raging within? Who's trying to stop this? Who's trying to slow this thing down? And who has that much power to do so? Who has that much influence to do so? Otherwise, everything should have been released by now. Let you or I do something. They ain't gonna redact our files. No, it's gonna be hot off the press when it hit the streets. Ain't nothing gonna be held back. We will be exploited. So, it's different. The rules don't apply for everybody. That's one of the things we should be learning throughout all these situations. The rules don't apply for everyone. There's a different set of rules for you and I than what the rules they have to go by.
Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, she says, both warriors. We do have some reporting, though, on kind of the nature of some of these internal disagreements. And that's Julie K. Brown, She kind of broke this all open for the Miami Herald. She says this, that those involved in the Jeffrey Epstein case for 2 decades fear that the case and Epstein's victims are being used for political purposes. Lawyer Spencer Kuven, who has worked on the case since 2005, representing scores of victims, said, quote, "This isn't a news story, it's a publicity stunt." We also have reporting from Jackie Heinrich and David Spunt there at Fox News.
That's why I said earlier, this been stopped being about Jeffrey Epstein and the victims long time ago. This is grown bigger and way beyond that. It been stopped being about that.
If we can put some of that up as well. Jackie Heinrich obtaining this, a letter Pam Bondi sent Kash Patel. Bondi saying that the FBI withheld information on the Epstein files, which are currently held at the FBI New York City field office. Bondi wants it delivered to the DOJ tomorrow, but it must go through many different levels for the protection of victims before being released. David Spunt obtained that letter. We also have some reporting in, Bill Malugin citing David Spunt's reporting, saying federal sources telling David Spunt that the DOJ will post phase 1 of the Epstein files online later today. What's going to be released has already largely been seen in the public domain prior to today. And David Spunt is told there are no major surprises in this first batch. We just brought you that first batch here, and I have the statement in front of me. We're still kind of pouring over some of this here. I just want to read from more of the statement put out by Pam Bondi just today. And she goes on to say this, that she requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. She says, in response, the department received approximately 200 pages of documents. However, the Attorney General was later informed of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein that were not previously disclosed. She says the Attorney General has requested the FBI deliver the remaining documents to the department by 8 a.m. on February 28th, tomorrow, and has tasked FBI Director Kash Patel with investigating why the request for all documents was not followed. So the story continues here. This was the photo I was referencing earlier today. That's Rogan O'Hanley, otherwise known as DC Drano Online. Reporting suggests that Attorney General Pam Bondi hand-delivered those binders there to some of these kind of conservative MAGA social media personalities online who have been beating the drum on the Epstein files for so long. They were at the White House today, and they were handed those, though it's not necessarily certain that what the DOJ just released about an hour ago is the same as what some of these individuals were given, hand-delivered today at the White House. You can see there, it says, quote unquote, declassified. It's still not certain whether.
Look at the bottom. They just had to add that on there at the bottom, right? The most transparent administration in history. The 45th and 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. They just had to add that on there. That needed to be on there, associated. This is what we're talking about, though. This is not about the Epstein files or the victims. It is about the most transparent administration in history. I'm done at this point, man. We don't need to go any further, bro. Till the next one, I'm out. Peace.